Gorgeous Italian styling, a wonderful driving experience and a character like nothing else. The Alfa Romeo Alfetta is a hugely appealing classic prospect. But what's it like to live with a classic Alfa? Is that reputation they've got deserved? Well, we've got one of just 2 GTSs left in the country to find out. The Alfetta, with its gorgeous styling, was available with 3 engines, a 1600, the 2000 like we've got in this car, and of course the glorious Alfa Romeo V6. But whichever one you chose, you got this styling, and isn't it just epic? In these surroundings here, it looks so glamorous. The fastback rear end, this is a truly usable classic that still turns heads today. It's an Alfa. You have to fall in love with it the minute you see it. But because it's an Alfa, of course it can rust. The places to watch for rust on these are here. So there's a lot to look for on these cars: sills, arches, all the usual Alfa trouble spots, and a lot more besides. But the good news is, because these cars are so popular, relatively speaking, they're also very well supported. The likes of Alfa Parts and Alfaholics will deal with pretty much every part you need to restore one of these cars, and with values the way they're going now to 20, 30, even £40,000 we've seen for some, it is viable to restore one. So have a look very carefully, look at all the rust spots, look at all the buying guides you can find to make sure you buy a good one. When it comes to living with though, for a start, they're actually very reasonable to run. If you want to insure an Alfetta, in fact, you can do it with our friends at Peter Best for as little as this, which we were shocked at quite how affordable that was. But once you've done that, of course, you want to be driving it. And you're going to start with the typical Italian driving position, which, if I'm honest, is flawed. The steering wheel doesn't come out of the dashboard very straight. You'll notice the kind of raked back seating position I've got. And to have the pedals at a full extension where you can reach, your arms need to be very, very long. To be honest, it's not just my weird proportions. Short people have this problem as well. If your arms are longer than your legs, it won't quite work. Italian cars, particularly Alfas, do have weird driving positions, so you are going to have to get used to this. Then there's the gear change. We'll come onto it on the road later. It's a transaxle layout, a bit like a Porsche 944, and that means you do need to be sure that it is in the right gear. This is not bad, actually, but a lot of them are decidedly vague when all the bushes get worn out. The ergonomics are particularly Alfa-y. I mean, I've not got a huge amount of headroom. It's not too bad, but it's not immediately familiar if you're used to more upright German cars where it just all makes sense. And as for getting in the back, you're probably not going to get adults back there. Maybe you'll get kids in it, but certainly this is not a 4-seater family proposition if your kids are taller than about 4 feet, particularly if you are as well. Moving around though, of course you want to look at the boot. It's a fastback, in fact it's a hatchback, and for that side, being an Alfa, you'll be surprised to hear, it's very practical. I won't do the old kidnapping test on this one, but it is hugely spacious back there. You will get suitcases. You wouldn't put your dog back there, but you would get a good amount of shopping. So you can look good while you're going to Aldi. What more could you want? But without further ado, enough looking at it, let's admire it from behind the wheel and go for a drive. Oh. Little scratch into third there, but you have to say the Italians managed to make even a humble 4-cylinder sound so exotic. That's the legendary Alfa twin cam under the bonnet there, and I know it's not the V6 that everyone goes on about having in the Alfetta, but you know what? It's plenty from where I'm sat. The other thing you get with Alfetta ownership is access to one of the most enthusiastic and most bustling owners' fraternities for any make or model of car. Alfa Romeo owners are hugely loyal to the brand. They're passionate and enthusiastic. There are meets and shows going on all over the country, more often than not going into Europe to celebrate these cars as well, because Italian car owners are just that enthusiastic. This particular car has been owned by a member of Club Alfetta GT and GTV for these cars specifically, so you can get in touch with them if you need parts and if you just want something to do, because so many of these cars are still being used and driven. Not only do people go on tours in them and take them to classic shows, people race these things and hill climb them and take part in historic motorsport events. So it doesn't have to just be for polishing it on the weekends like that old cliche about Alfa Romeo owners says. These cars, if they're used properly and set up properly, are made to be driven. And when they are, you get one hell of an experience. Now, if you do want to own one of these cars, they're not as hard to track down as you might think. In fact, they survive in quite strong numbers in right-hand drive, like this car here. That means there are plenty of options to find them in the UK, either as a British car, or quite often repatriated South African cars is fairly common, we've discovered. And once you've got your Alfetta in the UK, of course, you need to insure it. The good news is that our friends at Peter Best can do that for you, and remarkably affordably, actually. What's more, you can add breakdown cover to your policy for as little as £54. And I know what a lot of you will be saying in the comments, it's an Alfa, you'll need the breakdown cover. But will you? Well, there's mixed messages being sent to me by this particular Alfetta that I'm driving today, because when we looked in the boot, we did find a jump pack, we did find a scissor jack and we did find a Haynes manual, which would tick all the boxes for typical Alfa Romeo ownership, you'd think. But we also found a plethora of paperwork, of magazines that this car's been on photo shoots for when it's been driven, and hundreds of plaques and stickers from tours and club events that this car's taken part in and driven into Europe thousands of miles. And you wouldn't take a car that was unreliable on a multi-thousand-mile European road trip, would you? I think it's worth saying that if you're after a dependable, simple classic that you know is going to start and work perfectly every time, buy a Mercedes, because a 70s Alfa is not going to give you that experience. And similarly, I'd be hesitant to recommend one of these as your first ever old car, because there are quirks to the 70s Alfa Romeo ownership experience. I mean, as we've said, this driving position is frankly appalling. I've got to have my arms fully outstretched, my knees are bent at a 90-degree angle and up around my ears. I'm more sitting sort of on the dead pedal than resting my foot near it, and I'm reclined at this ridiculous angle that I can't really get round. What's more, whoever sat behind me would not be having a nice time either. They'd be very sunk in and concave, and nothing falls very easily to your hand. You've got all sorts of weird layouts for the controls. The biggest button on the dashboard by a country mile is the defrost button for some reason, which obviously if you're in Italy you wouldn't need anyway. You've got sort of unconventional handles for things. The ashtray is down under the grab handle for the door that you can't really reach. The ergonomics are pretty shocking, to be honest, and the whole familiarity of the driving experience that you might get from something logically laid out like a Mercedes of this era, or to be honest, even something like a Sierra, you're just not getting. So there are quirks to the driving experience, but I don't think the reliability myth is necessarily entirely founded with these Alfettas, because all the bad ones will have been broken by now or have rotted away. So all the ones that are left, like this one, are good. And when they're good, they are wonderful. It's about keeping them healthy. You've got to look after the carbs and keep them running right. You've got to keep on top of the ignition components. You've got to put good fuel in them, and you've got to drive them like an Italian. Rev it out, let it sing, because then it won't get clogged up with rubbish. It will run and drive like an Alfa should, like you think it will. If you treat it like a Cortina and just bumble around in it and think that it'll start first turn of the key, you're going to be disappointed. As we come around here, the other quirk to the Alfetta is its layout. It's a transaxle like a Porsche 944, where the gearbox is located in the back axle for better weight distribution, and they are famously not there you go, not brilliant actually. It feels fairly good until you discover quite how hard it is to get it into gear, and crunching is not unusual, probably from previous owners who have crunched it into gear a few times as well. Even with all the bushes in good nick, take your time, change gear slowly and gently, even if you're on it, because slam it into gear and it probably won't want to do it. It'll do it in its own time. It's Italian, bear with it. So quite apart from the awkward ergonomics and the theoretical unreliability, I'm not going to say they're unreliable, because I firmly believe that a well-maintained car that's set up right can be reliable, and that weird gear change. What do you need to worry about with Alfetta ownership then? Well, fuel economy for a start. The twin carb 2 litre that we've got here, because you're going to be opening it up every so often, you're going to be using a lot of fuel. Magazine tests back in the day had these down as low as 20 or 22 miles to the gallon, so don't go thinking this is an economical proposition, but when you hear it, doesn't really seem to matter, does it? As for the V6, well, think the same, but 50% more fuel consumption, I would imagine. And then there's the other elements of practicality. Parts for these things are doable. There are various companies that will sort it for you, but don't think it's going to be next day, and don't think it's going to be cheap, because classic Alfa ownership is not a budget-friendly proposition. You've got to go in both feet first and know that you're giving up a lot over a lot of more conventional 70s classics, even of similar value, to get the Alfa Romeo badge on your driveway. You're going to be waiting a long time for parts, they're going to be rare, and they're going to be expensive. And more often than not, you'll have to import them from abroad, because the foreign following for these cars is surprisingly strong, a bit like spiders. You do give up a lot for the classic Alfa Romeo ownership experience with the Alfetta, and again, I wouldn't advise it was your first old car, and probably not even your first Alfa, to be honest. You're better off starting with something a little bit more modern and a little bit easier to do, something like a 916 GTV. But once you're familiar with the eccentricities of a classic Italian car, particularly one that's got a bit of panache and a bit of unusuality to it, like the Alfetta does, go for it, I'd say, because the way it looks, the way it makes you feel, the character of the thing, all these cliches of Italian cars, the soul and the passion and the character, it rings true, because a BMW doesn't feel like this, a Mercedes doesn't feel like this, a Cortina certainly doesn't feel like this. Even when you're bumbling along at 35 or 40 miles an hour, you've got this crazy dashboard with all the gauges contained in this sort of helicopter style layout. You've got this ridiculous driving position, and you've got crunchy third gear. Oh, and that wonderful twin cam rasp going on. It's so special. Living with a classic Alfa Romeo Alfetta is not for everyone, and if you're used to German stuff and even British stuff, you've got a lot to expect in terms of challenges for cost and logistics and reliability, let's be honest. But if you accept that going in and you acknowledge what you're getting yourself in for, life with an old Alfa Romeo can be absolutely joyous. Why don't you let us know in the comments, have you ever owned an Alfetta? Do you own a 70s Alfa Romeo, a Spider or 75, or one of these? How have you found it? Is it expensive? Is it ruinous? Have you been left at the side of the road and really you wish you'd bought a BMW? I doubt it. Don't forget to subscribe for all future Classics World content. Click the bell icon so you get our videos as soon as they're released. And if you need insurance for your Alfetta or indeed any classic car, do be sure to contact our friends at Peter Best, who will do you a great price for it, especially if you've got one of these babies. But for now, I've got a winding country road and a fully functional 70s Alfa Romeo all to myself. See you soon. Ho, 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 ho.